The Department of Sport, Arts and Culture agreed on the delivery of the Presidential Economic Stimulus Program in October last year. Artists' livelihoods were battling as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the department allocated 300 million rand to help the struggling artists. But while the process of funding took off, many artists claimed that there was misadministration of funds. Some applicants benefited from the program, while others did not. Now, it all led to groups of artists embarking on strikes and calling for transparency. Here to update us on the latest developments, we're joined now by two artists who've been at the forefront of calls for accountability at the National Arts Council. Producer Eugene Mtetwa and opera singer Sibongile Mngoma. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Sibongile, let me start with you, just to get a sense of your reaction now, as it's been revealed by Minister Nathi Mtetwa that there are NAC members who are really in hot waters as we speak after this COVID stimulus package investigation revealed instances of some form of misconduct as you had initially suspected.
Good morning and thank you. You know, what I find incredible is the fact that the president actually came out and said that Minister Nathi Mtetwa is doing a sterling job. Now, how is Minister Nathi Mtetwa doing a sterling job when he fails to play a proper oversight role over agencies of government like the NAC and a forensic investigation, as well as a report by TADA, which is the Theatre and Dance Alliance, has both find that there's been inappropriate conduct by both the department and the NAC. So the minister seems to want to shift responsibility. He doesn't take any responsibility for any of the mess that has happened. Instead, he's throwing 5 council members under the bus, and he says nothing about the suspended CEO and CFO. So the question here is, who's fooling who, and why should artists be voting for the ANC ever again?
Eugene, what are your views around this, especially as, you know, you've really been at the forefront together with Sibongile, just to ensure that people are held accountable and that there are some answers to the many questions that you had been posing since the start of the year?
Well, as Sibongile has said, that it baffles us that there were very contradicting statements from the beginning. When Abahlali Sibongile went to NAC to do a sit-in, there was money missing. We were told that situation had an oversubscription, and then suddenly the report comes and says nothing was wrong with the money, no money was lost. Yet the minister had to go to Treasury and go look for money because there was a shortage. Now, coming to the report, it is baffling also that you call a media briefing, but you haven't given the media the report to scrutinize it so that when they come, they are able to ask questions that are relevant to the report. Thirdly, why it is always the case when certain people are implicated, names are not mentioned. But when it is artists who are implicated in some scandals and what, they are able to name. For instance, they issued a statement where they listed some of us as beneficiaries of the 280 million. And only out of that 280-something million, I got 10,000 rands as far as I know. And that was openly described. But they did not list the fact that the artist who got the money couldn't have made the 280-something million. So there are so many questions, but it is okay that the formal report has been presented. But we still have the Hawks doing its own independent investigation, and heads are going to roll. Now, when it comes to the minister, our artists are saying we are not going to vote because it is clear that we don't exist. The president in his State of the Nation address doesn't mention anything about us. In the manifesto of the ANC, they only talk about social cohesion. So our flights don't exist. The president reshuffles the cabinet and still retains the same minister who has so many voices saying the minister must step down.
Sibongile, as you also express your dissatisfaction with the manner in which Minister Nathi Mthethwa has conducted himself over this matter, Eugene touches on something of importance that stands out, as we know that Mthethwa declined to name the 5 members that he said were indeed in hot waters and are linked to some form or the other of misconduct, saying that 2 of them are still part of the 18-member council of the NAC. What are your views around that?
Well, you see, it's interesting to me that the minister talks of 2 council members that are still part of the council of the NAC, and yet there are new council members who have benefited. And according to the National Arts Council Act, they are not supposed to benefit at all during their term. Never mind that the applications were made before they were inducted. The bottom line is they applied knowing that they had also applied to become council members. So there's a lot of integrity missing in this picture. So the minister actually has proven over and over that him and the truth are 2 parallel universes. So I'm inclined to agree with everyone who says he must step down. In fact, this is no longer time for the president to reshuffle him. He must do it voluntarily. He must just leave, because there's nothing for him to do here. He has caused enough damage, and he does not have a heart for artists. In fact, he says, "I'm an artist. I am stressed." So we don't need a minister who's stressed by artists. We need a minister who cares about artists, who has compassion, who actually understands the industry and wants it to thrive. This is not a narrative I've heard coming out of Nathi Mthethwa's mouth, that he wants the industry to thrive. All he talks about is social cohesion, but he doesn't talk about how that would be implemented in collaboration with the different art forms and in the different fraternities of the cultural and creative industries. And I haven't heard him say how he's trying to fix the issue of cultural exchange with other countries so that we can have a global footprint, especially financially. And then we won't have to depend on the Department of Arts and Culture for our money.
Eugene, let me turn to you. You mentioned the payout, some aspects of the payout and how some artists were named, yet when it comes to really important investigative work that has to do with misconduct, certain members of the NAC are not named. But we heard that in March that around 600 or so beneficiaries had been overpaid, and that the additional 700 had essentially not been paid because there are no funds to pay them. Where does this now place the artist in terms of payment and those who may not have still today not been paid?
Well, you can tell even from the figures that they don't tally. One, there is 208-something million that has already been paid, but we have so many members who have not been paid. Now, again, he says that there is no money that is lost, but there's mismanagement. What is mismanagement? Is mismanagement not part of the lost money that went to, what about the construction companies that were listed in the list of the beneficiaries, the environmentalists who were listed, the big companies that were listed in the beneficiaries list, companies that were approved 5 times or 6 times or 10 times? He doesn't speak to that part. He's only saying there's nothing wrong with, there's no money that was lost. Every cent went to artists. But we are yet to see, as I said, that there is an investigation by the Hawks, which will then look at we will be able to compare the minister's report because we don't even have that report yet. So we'll have to look at the report and then look at the report that would be brought in by the Hawks. And the reason why we say minister must step down is that the buck stops with him.
Mm-hmm.
If he's unable to say, for instance, in every project, there's a member of the department who's assigned to be an oversight person within the board or the committee that deals with that, or the task team that will be dealing with that. Now, he doesn't mention anybody from the department who has to account and say why all these things happened under his watch. So for that, we can't trust him because he's been somersaulting and saying so many things. But we appreciate the fact that they tried to investigate themselves. So thank you for investigating yourselves as the department, but we will be comfortable to see what the report looks like and the Hawks report, what it would look like.
Very well. Thank you so much to you both. That was a producer and artist Eugene Mthethwa and opera singer Sibongile Mngoma. Really just speaking to what has happened since that sit-in that the artists launched at the National Arts Council as they called for answers and accountability when it comes to these funds, the misappropriation of funds. And, of course, the outcome shows that NAC members may be in hot waters as this COVID stimulus package investigation shows that there was some form of wrongdoing or the other. But the artists here essentially calling for Minister Nathi Mthethwa to step down, saying that he doesn't have the vision that can steer the sector forward. Still